The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, I'm just wrapping up another hard day of training at Bay Boxing Gym. Getting a little stronger every day. Got to tighten up my technique a bit because I think I threw a hook the wrong way on the bag and messed up one of my forearms a little bit. But we good though. We live and we learn. What I wanted to talk about was the big fight coming up in the heavyweight division. And yes, I said a big fight because it's a fight that I think a lot of American fight fans and maybe even boxing fans in general are overlooking. And that's the fight in the heavyweight division between Daniel Dubios and Joe Joyce. Now, as far as I'm concerned, this is probably one of the best matchups that could be made in the heavyweight division as far as fighters who don't have world titles, in my opinion. You know, I think this isn't just a good domestic British fight. I think this fight is genuinely a good world level fight. You know, you got one of the hottest prospects in the heavyweight division in Daniel Dubios. He's a guy that a lot of people are pegging as the next champion of the heavyweight division. You know, the next guy up as far as the next generation. He's flying the flag high for British boxing and boxing at large. And people are expecting big things from the young Daniel Dubios. And he showed himself to be quite the knockout artist in his career thus far. Although I will say, and this doesn't get talked about enough, Daniel Dubios in his last 4 to 5 fights has fought some of the weakest opposition in all of boxing. You know, if you don't believe me, just go check who he's fought, and you tell me who he's fought in his last 5 or 6 fights that's like legit. You know, in my opinion, you know, besides Nathan Gorman. If Nathan Gorman is the most legit person on your resume, then there's a problem. But that's not taking away from Dubios. I'm just pointing out. I'm making an observation. I'm pointing a fact. But this is a true step up for him. We're gonna get a lot of questions answered. And I gotta be honest with you guys. For a long time, when people ask me about this fight, like who would win between Dubios and who would win between Joe Joyce, I always said Dubios just because it was a popular thing to say. And I just, you know, I've seen Joyce fight, but after going back and viewing his fights and coming to the realization that BT, they don't call him the juggernaut for no reason. He's 6'6". He's a unit. He's wide. He's a load. He's hard to deal with, and it's not a coincidence that he had the amateur exploits that he had. And things really kind of clicked for me. Things clicked for me a lot when I asked Filip Hrgovic, who fought Joe Joyce in the World Series of Boxing. I asked him what's Joe Joyce like in that boxing ring? Like, is he really that slow in the boxing ring? And he told me that, like, yeah, it looks one way on the outside, but on the inside, it's a completely different story once you step through these ropes. So, you know, I'm not so sure who's going to win this fight. I've been going back and forth. I'm leaning towards Dubios, just because I feel like, you know, boxing's a young man's game, and you know, Joe Joyce is no spring chicken, and I really do think Dubios is one of the future, you know, major players in this division as far as, you know, going on to win world titles and things of that nature. You know, this fight's going to be interesting because I think for the first time in Daniel Dubios' entire boxing career, we're going to see him matched up with the fighter who can match up with him physically. I mean, this kid Dubios, he is a specimen of a man, you know, physically speaking. He's a specimen of a man. But Joe Joyce, you know, I forget just looking at him, because when you watch him on TV, he looks like he's kind of chubby or pudgy, but you don't realize that, hey, this guy is tall. He's 6'6". He's a big kid. So my thing is this, right? Dubios is known for his right hand. He's got an improving jab, which we've seen on a fight-by-fight basis. But like, what's going to happen? My question for this fight is, what's going to happen to Dubios if Joe Joyce is able to close that gap and inflict some punishment to that body? That's what I want to see. And I think this fight right here is so good for Dubios in terms of testing him, because we're going to see him fight a guy who has great amateur experience, has been getting some good experience in the pros, been in there with a couple names we know that we're familiar with, that we know are good, solid professional fighters, like Brian Jennings. You know, didn't look the best in the Brian Jennings fight. I think he was saved by the fact that Brian Jennings is a vegan, and vegans have no punching power. No disrespect to the vegans out there, but like Timothy Bradley had no punching power. Brian Jennings has no punching power. And vegans, if you look across all the sports, I don't care if you look at American football with Cam Newton. You know, the minute he went vegan, he couldn't stop getting injured. You know, one of my favorite tennis players, Novak Djokovic, he went vegan, couldn't stop getting injured. So it's imperative that, you know, you eat just a little bit of meat, in my opinion. I don't think you got to eat crazy amounts of meat, but you got to at least have a good, steady amount of lean meats. But, you know, that's a topic for another video. Dubois is like I said earlier, he's a specimen of a man, and I think I'm picking him in this fight. I'm gonna go with Dubois only because of the fact that, like I said, I think he's got that X factor as far as when he hurts you, he knows how to finish you. And I feel like he's gonna hurt Joe Joyce at some point in this fight in the middle rounds. I don't think it's gonna be a fight where we see anybody get hurt in the first 3 or 4 rounds. It is heavyweight boxing, so we don't know. But I feel like Dubois, he's mature beyond his years. He fights beyond his years. The same things I was saying about Teofimo Lopez are the same things I'm going to say about Daniel Dubois. He fights at a maturity level that's beyond his years. He's patient. He's poised with his jab, which is why he's able to land the right hand seemingly at will. So, you know, we'll see what happens, man. But I think we're going to find a lot out about the heavyweight division in this fight. I would like to see the winner of this fight my boy, Filip Hrgovic. You know, I would love to see him against either Joe Joyce, because if it's Joe Joyce, right? If it's Joe Joyce against Hrgovic, then that means we get a rematch of the World Series of Boxing, Joe Joyce against Hrgovic, and that makes for an intriguing fight and storyline. And if we get Dubois versus Hrgovic, then that's going to be one of the most exciting matchups that we can possibly get here on YouTube, because there's a lot of discussion going on amongst people on the boxing channels about who would win between Dubois and Hrgovic. You know, shout out to my man L-Dog. He's the president of the Filip Hrgovic fan club. I'm the vice president. We believe in Filip Hrgovic, and I think Filip Hrgovic is a great fighter. His style reminds me a lot of Vitaly Klitschko, and I would love to see him match up with one of these two fighters. But I think in this fight, if I had to make a prediction for right now, I think that Daniel Dubois in this fight fights at a maturity beyond his years. He's patient with the jab. He probes with the jab. And he lands some sort of big clubbing right hand that puts out Joe Joyce in the later rounds. Because Joe Joyce is a unit, he is durable, and it is going to take some time to get him out of there. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if Daniel Dubois went the full 12 with Joe Joyce and it wound up being a close fight, because Joe Joyce, I think, has that level of durability coming forward. So that's my little assessment of the fight. It's a big fight for the next generation of heavyweight boxing. Because whoever wins this fight is gonna go on to some bigger and better things. I think Joe Joyce needs to win this fight a little bit more than Dubois, because Joe Joyce is no spring chicken. He's in his 30s. As to where Dubois, if he loses, he can rebuild himself, and he's still like 22, 23, something like that. He's pretty much a kid in terms of boxing terms. So, but I'm gonna go with him. He might be a kid, but he sure as hell don't fight like one. That man's in there. He's throwing these grown man punches. You know what I'm saying? Dubois is throwing grown man punches, and I think he's gonna put Joe Joyce out with one of those grown man punches. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure you take the time to subscribe. I'm gonna go take a shower and continue with my day. But yeah, looking forward to this fight on November 28th, which also happens to be the same day as Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr., which is also another fight we gotta talk about here on True School Sports soon. But leave your comments down below. Make sure you take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.